Many people don't directly express their thoughts at work. They see a problem, disagree with a decision, or think of a better idea. But most of the time, they don't say it out loud. They weigh their words, gauge the atmosphere, and often remain silent. Have you ever wondered why? Because most of the time, speaking up at work comes with an invisible cost. Now think about this. You're on a team that's been working on a project for weeks. You realize that some aspects of the project don't make sense. But no one is talking about it. Everyone keeps working, as if everything is fine. You think about saying something a few times, but then a quick calculation flashes through your mind. If I say this now, I'll look like the person making things difficult, and it won't benefit me. And you do what most people do. You stay silent. And a few months later, just as you predicted, problems start to surface. The plan goes awry, goals aren't met, but no one turns around and asks, why didn't anyone say this earlier? Because most people were actually aware of some risks, only no one spoke up about them. This is where a common situation in workplaces emerges. People don't speak up. Because often the cost of speaking up is higher than the cost of staying silent. In workplace psychology, this is called organizational silence. Why? Because for most people, speaking up at work becomes a risk calculation. What do you gain by raising an issue? Maybe you get a thank you. But what if you're wrong? You risk losing your reputation, your relationships, even your chance at a promotion. The brain calculates this very quickly, and most of the time, it comes to this conclusion. The risk of speaking up outweighs the potential benefit. So if you were in that situation, would you speak up and do the right thing, even if it was risky, or would you choose to remain silent? Google's famous Aristotle project researched the common characteristics of high-performing teams. And contrary to what many people might expect, the result was not technical skills, but psychological safety. In other words, team members can freely express their ideas, are not afraid of making mistakes, and can openly criticize each other. This is precisely the secret of successful teams. Another situation is social conformity pressure. Most employees want to be in harmony with their colleagues. Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiment shows how easily people can be influenced by group pressure. In the experiment, participants accepted an answer they knew was clearly wrong because everyone else said so. This is even stronger in the workplace because people may not speak up or remain silent, even about ideas they know are wrong, to maintain group harmony, avoid boss backlash, or preserve team peace. Being the first to speak up is costly, so everyone waits, will someone speak up? But no one does, because in reality, everyone is thinking the same thing, and the only thing that emerges is collective silence. Sometimes people don't speak up because they are tired. They have raised an issue repeatedly, but there is no visible result. At some point, people start thinking, there's no point in speaking up. In psychology, this is called learned helplessness, so the person stops trying because their mind has come to this conclusion. This behavior doesn't change anything, and the brain conserves energy. It stops speaking up. The human brain dislikes uncertainty. When it can't predict what will happen, it sees it as a risk. That's why it often chooses the safest path, not talking at all. If the outcome were clear, you might talk. If I say this, the project will be corrected. Or if I say this, I'll get into serious trouble. In both cases, at least you know what you're up against, but that's often where the problem starts. No one knows what will happen. In real life, the outcome is often uncertain. They might listen, they might ignore you, or they might label you as difficult. This uncertainty alone is enough to silence most people. And sometimes it's not just about individuals. In some workplaces, speaking up is supported on paper. But in reality, it's not quite like that. They say, we have an open door policy. They say, feel free to share your ideas. But when someone actually raises an issue, the atmosphere suddenly changes. So what should you do in this situation? Because staying silent all the time doesn't benefit you or the workplace in the long run, but saying everything directly can also be risky sometimes. So the solution is this: choosing the right time to speak up and how to express yourself. Now, I'll share a few tactics with you. Number 1. Choose the right time and place. You don't have to say everything in a meeting. People are more defensive in meetings and less open to criticism in a crowded environment. Sometimes the most effective conversation is a one-on-one conversation. Ask for a private meeting with your boss in a calmer environment. Share your concerns there, not in front of everyone. Number 2. Deliver criticism as a question. Instead of objecting directly, ask a question. This strategy is very interesting. I wonder how we can apply what we learned from the data in the previous project this time. Did you notice? There is no direct criticism here. You are just asking a strategic question, and this question allows the team or boss to recognize the real issue. Questions appear much safer than direct objections. They still bring up the topic, but they show you as thoughtful and solution-oriented, not negative. Number 3, speak with data. Emotional or personal objections are often perceived as negative. When you raise an issue based solely on your feelings, people may think you are taking the criticism personally. But if you use concrete data-driven analysis and examples, what you say appears professional, logical, and solution-oriented. Instead of saying, "I don't think this will work," say, "We had some issues with a similar project last time. How do we plan to prevent the same situation this time?" 4. Frame your message positively. Instead of criticizing directly, present your message constructively. For example, instead of saying, "This project will fail," you could say, "To ensure this project's success, we may need to address these 3 risks." The message is the same, but the tone is much more constructive and professional. This approach allows you to express your opinion while enabling you to speak safely in the workplace. Number 5, be effective with small steps. It can be risky to bring up all the issues at once. Instead, start with a small, low-risk point. Clearly state a minor issue and observe the response from the other side. If it is received positively, you can be a little more specific on the next issue. If you receive a negative response, review your approach and plan your next step accordingly. This method allows you to stay in control and, in the long run, expands the area of safe communication in the workplace. Finally, speaking up isn't always the right choice. Sometimes staying silent is a conscious and strategic choice, but there's a difference between staying silent and being silenced. Stay in control. You decide whether to speak up or not. The important thing isn't to say everything, but to know when, how, and where to speak. Can you really say what you think, or do you always choose to remain silent? In the next video, we'll look at this question. Why are some employees not taken seriously? They say the same thing, but some people's opinions carry weight, while others are ignored. What's the difference? We'll discuss this in the next video.